Good morning, everyone. I'm Vladimir Duthier. We've got some breaking news happening right now in the newsroom. The FBI has arrested a suspect in connection with the planting of pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC offices in Washington, D.C. the night before the January 6th insurrection. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane has been following this case for us, and he's live right now in our Washington bureau with the late-breaking details. Scott, what can you tell us?
Vlad, two sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News the arrest was made just after 8 a.m. on the East Coast, made by the FBI's Washington field office or in conjunction with the FBI's Washington field office. We don't have the name of the person arrested yet, but we expect that name to become public quite soon when court filings are unsealed, either at the federal courthouse here in Washington, the location of the crime, or in one of the nearby courthouses wherever this person was arrested. To remind you, this mystery has gone nearly 5 years. The person who left those pipe bombs outside the Republican Party headquarters and the Democratic Party headquarters on January 5th, 2021, left potentially deadly devices in uniquely sensitive areas. And what's more, those devices detoured, derailed, and distracted police at a sensitive moment. They were discovered just as the riotous mob was approaching the U.S. Capitol on the afternoon of January 6, 2021, at the start of the Capitol insurrection. The police chief in Washington had testified those devices made police's jobs harder, which may have inflamed further the Capitol riot. The 5-year-long mystery, Vlad, has yielded conspiracy theories and all kinds of theories about how those devices got into place, how destructive they would have been. But now, today, after this arrest, we may finally get some answers as to what connection this person had to the January 6th riot and what any motivation might have been to leave those devices in those two high-profile locations.
So, Scott, I know that the FBI, over the course of the 5-year investigation, was offering a $500,000 reward. I know that they were reviewing thousands of minutes of video footage, but I want to put up for our viewers the video that most of us saw, the video of what appears to be an individual wearing a gray hoodie or gray hooded sweatshirt, wearing what looked like, at least according to the FBI, to be Nike Air Max sneakers or Air Max sneakers with a sort of a yellow logo. And you see this individual wearing a face mask. And what I thought was interesting, Scott, is because you can't see this individual's face, the FBI even mentioned that they were trying to analyze this individual's gait to see if that somehow drew a match for the people that they were sort of looking at. Do we know? I know we don't have a name, but do we know if do we know the gender of the suspect?
We don't. It's a great question because the conspiracy theories that have saturated this case have always raised the question, is that a woman's gait or a man's gait? And I want to underscore this, Vlad. There have been some particularly malignant conspiracy theories surrounding this pipe bomb attack, in part because of the timing. It happened right as the insurrection was starting. There have been actual names ascribed to suspects by cyber sleuths that have been unfounded conspiracy theories and have given some people who've been the subject of them a hard time. The result of this arrest is perhaps the conspiracy theories die down and some actual facts come out. They've looked at the gait of the person, how he or she walks. They've looked at the clothing, the hood. They've had close-up images of the shoes they put out to the public trying to yield tips. They put out that huge financial reward, hundreds of thousands of dollars for information. Nearly 5 years later, they finally get some answers.
Yeah, and I know that the Assistant Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, had been posting on social media that the FBI was very close to making an arrest of some type. There was, as you say, Scott, there had been a lot of malicious allegations out there ranging from, I mean, I'm not going to repeat them here, but it struck me that there, just in the same way that there were conspiracy theories surrounding so many of the hot button issues that you and I cover on a daily basis, that there was several surrounding this arrest. And so it does sort of bring to question what kind of investigation ultimately led to the FBI finding this suspect. And when, Scott, we can expect to get more details? Are they planning a press conference? I suspect that at some point we're going to get all these details.
Yeah, I would expect a public announcement from the FBI leadership on this. This has been a specific concern of the FBI director, Kash Patel. He talked about it before the president won election in 2024. The deputy director, Dan Bongino, has been a common source of information about this, though he has also spread conspiracy theories about the pipe bomber before he took over as deputy director of the FBI. It's important here to try to distill the fact from conspiracy theory because, to be clear, some members of the Trump administration have perpetuated conspiracy theories about the pipe bomber. So today, if we get information about the suspect and the suspect's motives, separating that from the prior conspiracy theory. The one thing that's distinctive about this, Vlad, anything with a nexus to January 6th gets politicized, unfortunately. But the pipe bomber, that is kind of unified both sides of the political spectrum. Both have their own versions of why they think this happened, and both have been demanding answers. There is nobody along the spectrum that's going to be dissatisfied finding out what actually happened here in this case.
You know, the other thing I wonder, Scott, given that Mr. Bongino had appeared on Fox News and other sort of right-wing outlets to suggest that the FBI was very close to finding an individual or individuals alleged to have put those pipe bombs in those locations, is the conspiracy theories in many instances had to do with people who are either close to the administration, the Trump administration, or supporters of the administration, seemingly attempting to suggest that whoever did this, whoever planted those pipe bombs, was somehow tied to law enforcement or somehow tied to people who were against the administration. And so I wonder, because you just pointed out that a lot of this stuff gets politicized, the fact that Bongino said that they were very close to finding a suspect, the fact that now we confirm, the FBI does, that we do have a suspect. I wonder if the American people, I just sort of think about, because one of the things Bongino said is that the Biden administration didn't pursue this as aggressively as he is pursuing it. But that isn't true as well, because you covered it during the time of President Biden's tenure.
It's been arguably the highest profile and investigation the FBI had running over the last few years. This was a nonpartisan investigation. These are the top career agents leading this investigation. I'll acknowledge, though, during the purge that has been undertaken inside the Department of Justice in 2025 in the Trump administration, some of those leading investigators were removed from the FBI for reasons unrelated to the pipe bomb investigation. This was enormous in scope, in size. They gave it a lot of media muscle. They gave it some push to try to yield tips. They put the big reward behind it. This has been an investigation led by nonpartisan, experienced agents inside the FBI. But because it has that connection to January 6th, it has had the political overtones that the January 6th prosecutions suffered from. The arrest that was just effected in the Washington, D.C. area, and whatever charging documents we see in the hours to come could finally snuff out some of these conspiracy theories. Those are difficult things to do, to stop conspiracy theories.
So, Scott, as you know, this is a fast-breaking story, and Eric Berlin, our producer, just got in my ear to say, maybe you're seeing it too, Scott, from your producers, that some of the details are starting to trickle out. Again, this is coming from a source that perhaps this individual that's been arrested is someone who is around, I guess, from late teens to early 20s. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we have two sources now, one of which is mine, one of which is my teammate Pat Milton's. This is a male suspect. It's a man. It may seem like a pretty trivial piece of information at this stage, but there have been all kinds of conspiracy theories ascribing blame for this to a certain woman or a couple different women. Those conspiracy theories suddenly are evaporating. The suspect is in the Washington, D.C. area. We know that from our reporting. We've known that since the arrest was made. The Washington field office of the FBI is arguably the largest and most impactful field office of the FBI across America, but they also have jurisdiction not only over the District of Columbia, but over Northern Virginia and the very populous communities in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. That's their area. If this were an arrest that was made, say, in Maryland, different field offices involved. That's the Baltimore field office. So we kind of limit down where this arrest was made to either Washington, D.C., or the Northern Virginia area, communities like Woodbridge, Alexandria, Arlington. This is going to be somebody who lives near Washington, D.C.
All right, Scott, as people are no doubt coming on to watch our coverage here, no doubt push alerts have been sent and people are hungry for the information. So let's just reset really quickly, and then we'll reset again at the top of the hour. So if you're just joining us, folks, the FBI has made an arrest early this morning in its nearly 5-year investigation into who placed pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the January 6, 2021 riots at the U.S. Capitol. And Scott MacFarlane, our justice correspondent, has been reporting the details. Scott, take us back to that early morning and where the investigation went and how it unfolded and what happened this morning.
Yeah, the arrest, again, was effected by federal agents with the FBI, likely with mutual aid, mutual support. If you're arresting somebody who is suspected of explosives, of putting up and mechanizing pipe bombs, no doubt they needed some extra security protocols to effect this arrest. You'd have to be concerned that that person would have explosives in his home or in his car, on his person. So though all federal arrests are done with some level of precision and caution, this one might have required more precision, more coordination, and more caution. There's all kinds of mutual aid facts that exist between the FBI and the large police departments in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. But the nexus of this case is worth underscoring. These devices have been characterized, the ones from January 5th, 2021, as potentially deadly, destructive devices, not just a toy with a battery in it. And they were in just some of the highest sensitive areas of the nation's capital. They weren't just on a city street. They were near the Capitol building itself. They were near the party headquarters of the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, and the one at the Democratic National Committee was not discovered and disabled until after then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris was in that building in a car driving just past the would-be bomb. And these devices, because of where they were and because they were placed there on January 5th, 2021, caused an emergency response by the Capitol Police and the D.C. Police just as the riotous mob was approaching and beginning to attack the Capitol Police and later the D.C. Police. All of this disoriented and derailed some of the police response to the insurrection, further inflaming the opening minutes of the insurrection, giving the rioters more of a berth to get into the Capitol itself. So, though the bombs didn't detonate or injure anybody, there is a compelling argument that's been made, Vlad, that those bombs caused injury and death inside the Capitol complex, leaving it more exposed to the riot.
So, Scott, as you know, because you reported on it, earlier this year, the FBI released more information about the investigation, including an estimate of the unidentified suspect's height, which the FBI said was about 5 feet 7 inches. And then the Bureau also posted previously unreleased video of the suspects, and we're showing some of the video now, of the suspect placing one of the bombs. But because, as you indicated, for nearly 4 years, there have been some basic questions that have remained unanswered, including the one that you were just breaking down a little earlier that I want you to talk about, which is they have not, up until today, been able to establish a clear link between those pipe bombs, the placing of those pipe bombs, and the January 6th Capitol riot. We know that they happened on the same day, obviously, which is why when there isn't a lot of information, the conspiracy theorists take, root. But until we understand who the suspect is, up until this point, correct me if I'm wrong, the FBI never established, even though it happened on January 6th, that there was a link to the insurrection.
That is the heart of the matter, Vlad. What was the motivation of this person? Was this person a part of some plan to attack the Capitol and help distract and derail the police officers? Was this somebody who knew there was going to be an attack the next day and that this would help? Possibility, an enormous one. Is this somebody who was trying to, just because he wanted to, attack the party headquarters because he was dissatisfied in some way with the election results or wanted to make a statement independent of the insurrection? Possibility would be a big one. Is this somebody, as the conspiracy theories have argued, was some form of a Fedsurrection, a federal staging of an attack on the Capitol that has been a baseless claim that I tell you gets a lot of traction, has a lot of volume on social media, is this would-be pipe bomber a component of a Fedsurrection? These are all questions that have been persisting for years. And in some corners of Washington and in a rather large volume of people on social media, they have been asking this openly and hypothesizing openly about it. We could finally get some answers when we see these charging documents, and Vlad, that could happen any minute.
So let me also ask you, Scott, about the report. There was a report from Congress. The report was titled "The Failures and Politicization of the January 6th Select Committee and Activities on and Leading Up to January 6, 2021. It was prepared at the direction of the then chairman, Barry Loudermilk. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, and you covered justice, so I want your thoughts on this. Some House Republicans actually criticized these security lapses because, as you pointed out, they wanted to know how law enforcement failed to detect the bombs for some 17 hours. What have we learned about that?
Yeah, the investigations by Congress into January 6th have marinated in politics from the start. Even though both parties were evacuated that day, even though the rioters were trying to threaten, potentially kill members of both parties that day, this thing has been a piece of political kryptonite. And it's been manifesting itself into elections. So this recent investigation you referenced is another one that has been ascribed political overtones, where the Republican-led committee has accused Democrats of not properly securing the Capitol, has turned this into a political issue. But one of the questions they raise that is nonpartisan is, why weren't those bombs found? Where was the shortcoming? How do we button that up? One of the other nonpartisan questions they're asking is, how do we better ensure the police are more prepared for the next type of threat of this sort? The question's out there, but there haven't been real satisfactory answers about why the pipe bombs went undetected, because we still didn't know who deposited them or why. Another set of answers perhaps we get when these case filings are finally unsealed, potentially today.
And finally, Scott, before we reset at the top of the hour, you pointed it out when we were beginning our discussion. The then Vice President-elect of the United States, Kamala Harris, was actually inside the DNC offices when that pipe bomb was found outside of the building at about 1:05 p.m. on January 6th. And then before the bomb was deactivated, the then House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, her motorcade reportedly, correct me if I'm wrong on this, her motorcade passed by the DNC as she was evacuated from the Capitol because of the riot.
These travels of the Vice President-elect, then Senator Kamala Harris, was right by the pipe bomb, like a stone's throw from the pipe bomb, as she made her entrance into the DNC that day and made her exit, evacuating from the DNC, right by that location. Some of what the FBI has offered up, trying to yield tips, have been images of where the bombs were and their proximity to the DNC and the RNC. Just raises the stakes and the significance of all of this.
All right, Scott MacFarlane with the breaking news, if you're just joining us, folks, that there has been an arrest in the January 6th pipe bomb investigation by the FBI. Scott MacFarlane, I want to thank you. I know you're going to be all over this story, all over our air at CBS News over the course of the next hours until we get more details on those suspects. But again, if you're just joining us, the FBI has announced that they have made an arrest in the pipe bomb investigation where 2 pipe bombs were placed outside the DNC and RNC offices in the hours leading up to the January 6th riot. We're going to have a whole lot more at the top of the hour right here on CBS News 24/7. We'll be right back. Stay